May 11th readings. Justin Martyr, Dialogue with Trypho, chapter 111-112. The two advents foreshadowed by the two goats, and that there would be two separate comings of this Christ, just as I said earlier, was clearly shown even in the time of Moses, through the symbol of the two goats offered during the day of fasting. These figures weren't random, they were deliberate signs pointing forward to the two advents of Christ. There is also a symbolic pattern in what Moses and Joshua did. One of them, Moses, stood on a hill with his arms outstretched and remained there until evening. Others supported his hands to keep them lifted. This wasn't just a story of military perseverance, it was a type, a foreshadowing of the cross itself. The other figure, Joshua, whose name had been changed to Jesus, led the battle, and under his leadership, Israel triumphed. In this we see how God appointed two men to bear witness to two mysteries. One bore the sign of the cross, and the other bore the name. And the reason they had to be separate is because only Christ could carry both. Only Christ could fulfill the power of the cross and the power of the name. His name is feared by every power because they know that he will destroy them. That's why our suffering and crucified Christ was not cursed by the law, but revealed as the only one who could save those who hold fast to faith in him. The Passover and the scarlet thread, symbols of blood and salvation. Think back to Egypt. The blood of the Passover lamb was sprinkled on the doorposts and lintels of the Israelites. This was no coincidence. That blood saved those inside from the death that struck down Egypt's firstborn. And who was the true Passover? Christ, who was later sacrificed, just as Isaiah prophesied. He was led as a sheep to the slaughter. You know this well. On the very day of Passover you seized him, and during that same feast you crucified him. Just as the blood of the Passover saved the Israelites in Egypt, so also the blood of Christ saves all who believe from death. Was God mistaken when he made the blood a sign on the doors? Of course not. He was revealing beforehand the way salvation would come to the whole human race, through the blood of Christ. There's more. Think of the scarlet thread tied in Rahab's window. The spies sent by Joshua told her to bind it to the window, through which she helped them escape. That scarlet thread wasn't just a token, it was a sign, a prophecy. It pointed to the blood of Christ. Through that blood, people from every nation, even former harlots and sinners, receive forgiveness and are saved. And once they've received that salvation, they no longer continue in sin. The signs are great, but your teachers explain them poorly. But you, interpreting these things in a shallow and earthly way, do a great disservice to God. You reduce his actions to weakness when you merely listen to the words and never search out their true meaning. Take Moses, for example. He commanded that no image or likeness of anything in heaven, on earth, or in the sea should be made. And yet, he made a bronze serpent, mounted it on a staff, and told the people who had been bitten to look at it, and they were saved when they did. Now ask yourself, was it really the serpent, an animal that, as I said earlier, God had cursed from the beginning and declared would be cut off with his great sword, as Isaiah prophesied, Isaiah 27:1, that saved them? Do we seriously accept this event at face value, the way your teachers do, as if it weren't a sign? Shouldn't we rather see that staff as a foreshadowing of the crucified Jesus? After all, Moses won the battle for your people with outstretched arms, arms held up until sunset, alongside the one named Jesus, Joshua. Hollow explanations versus prophetic mystery. This interpretation makes sense of Moses' actions. He didn't abandon God, nor did he ask the people to put their hope in a creature that introduced sin and disobedience into the world. Rather, as a blessed prophet, he did these things with wisdom and deep symbolism. There's not a single word or act by any true prophet that deserves criticism, if one understands the meaning behind them. But your teachers, they spend their time explaining why female camels are mentioned in one passage but not in another, or why a certain number of measures of fine flour or oil are used in offerings. They focus on these trivial matters, speaking in a crude and base manner. They avoid the truly important things, and worse, they forbid you from listening to us when we try to explain them. They tell you not to speak with us at all. Don't they deserve the rebuke that our Lord Jesus Christ gave them? Whitewashed tombs, which look beautiful on the outside but are full of dead men's bones within. You tithe mint and dill and swallow a camel. You blind guides. Matthew 23:24-27. So if you continue to follow teachers who seek honor and love to be called Rabbi, Rabbi, and if you refuse to approach the words of prophecy with the same insight and courage the prophets themselves had, willing to suffer rejection from your own people, you will never benefit from the prophetic writings at all. Augustine of Hippo. The Confessions, Book 9, Chapter 9, Sections 19-20. Her strength through humble obedience, raised with modesty and sobriety, my mother honored her parents, not by defying them in favor of God, but by showing her submission to them as a way of submitting to you. When she came of age, she was given in marriage and served her husband as her master. She worked tirelessly to win him to you, not by words, but by her quiet conduct. Through her faithfulness, you made her beautiful in character, gracious, dignified, and admirable in her husband's eyes. Even when he wronged their marriage bed, she never argued or fought with him. Instead, she patiently waited for your mercy, trusting that by believing in you, he would eventually become pure. Though he was a loyal friend, he was quick-tempered, but she had learned never to oppose him in anger, not with actions, not even with words. Once he had calmed down, she would wait for the right moment to explain herself gently, if he had been upset without reason. Many women in less troubled marriages bore bruises on their faces and complained about their husbands in private. But my mother did not share in this bitterness. Instead, she reproved them, sometimes half-jokingly, but with serious wisdom. She would say that from the day they heard the so-called marriage contracts read aloud, they should think of themselves as entering a servant's role, and remembering this, they ought not to challenge their lords. Her wisdom in conflict and peacemaking in 4. Women who listened to her advice and followed it found it wise and life-giving. Those who ignored it remained trapped in sorrow and strife. Even her mother-in-law, who had once been poisoned against her by gossiping servants, was eventually won over. My mother endured patiently, responding to evil with meekness until her mother-in-law confessed the truth. She revealed to her son that certain servants had stirred up tension in the household and asked him to discipline them. In response, and out of a desire to restore harmony, he punished the guilty ones according to her request. From that moment on, she declared that anyone who tried to speak ill of her daughter-in-law would receive the same punishment. As a result, no one dared to slander her again. And from that time forward, the two women lived together in a peace marked by deep and mutual affection. Thomas Aquinas, Summa Theologica, Part 1, Question 66, Article 1. Whether the formlessness of created matter preceded its formation in time. Objection. It seems that formless matter did not exist before its formation in time, because nothing can exist without some form. Responsio. We must affirm that when God created the world, he created it in stages, not because he needed time, but to show the order of creation to us. The account in Genesis says that the earth was without form and void before God shaped it. This means that God created matter before shaping it into specific things. But we should be careful here. This before is not a temporal sequence, like seconds ticking on a clock. It's a logical order. God did not create raw matter on one day and wait until another day to form it. Rather, the existence of unformed matter is conceptually prior to its formation, just like the idea of clay precedes the sculpture, even if they come into being simultaneously. So yes, unformed matter existed logically before being formed, but not temporally. This is consistent with the faith and with reason. For God to form things, he first had to will matter into being, and then arrange it according to his design. Quick summa, created matter did not precede its formation in time, but it did so in logical order, since God first willed it into being, before shaping it into specific forms.